All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the, hold on, I'm just doing a couple mutes, to the kickoff call of the Wisdom on Wheels virtual meetup for WOW. I am super excited that you're here. This has been as most major projects are, this has been a heck of a lot more work than I ever dreamed it would be, right? But that's the way life is. If we knew before we set out on the major project how much work it was going to be, we might never do it. So it's really good to be, rather oblivious and have the, blind optimism to start. So I wanted to create this so that women all over the US and maybe even the world and beyond could learn from women who are doing this, who are living part-time or full-time in a van, an RV, a car, get advice and tips and wisdom about getting started, how to choose the right vehicle, where to camp or overnight, how to connect with others, how to stay healthy, hygiene, learn ways to make money as a nomad, all of that stuff. And one of my main goals, because this is just, I guess, who I am and the way I've led my life for so many decades, is to help you know and connect with each other. Because information is one thing, but connection is what my real goal is. And so to help you achieve that, I encourage you, if you can, and actually almost all of you do, to have your camera on, because when you're on camera, it's like you're in the room. It's like we're here together and you're a full participant, not just sort of a, behind the scenes person. And of course, you don't have to have your camera on. Some of you are working right now, or certainly if you're driving, better not to have it on. Or if you're eating or talking to another person or on the phone or something, it's better not to have it on, because that can be distracting to everybody else, because you just notice, that thing that's moving. So the camera is to help you be fully present. And if you're, so anyway, that's enough of that. Okay, now I'm going to often be asking you to participate in the chat. And the purpose is to keep you engaged and to help you connect to the speaker and to each other, so that you're not in sort of like TV watching mode. Okay. And I know that this can be more challenging when you're on a phone, typing with your finger, but let's test it out right now. So share in the chat 3 words describing how you're feeling right now. 3 words describing how you're feeling right now. I love that. Sandra says, I feel great. And Karen says, tired from work. Anna, excited, tired, and hopeful. Joni, excited, confident, enthusiastic. Patty, excited, curious, happy. Mary, interested, hopeful, tired. Mary Beth, frustrated, can't get my camera to work. Mia, stressed, working while listening. Mary Beth, interested. Melody, happy to be here. I think that's what Melody said. Yes, excited. Linda, excited, ready to meet up. Karen, excited, scared, impatient. Brenda, excited, anxious, interested. Erin, busy, energized, interested. Jean, excited to be here. Danny, joyful, productive, hopeful. Dion, eager to learn. Deborah, happy, free, and relaxed. Mary, interested, excited, challenges. Peggy, creative, hopeful, happy. Joan, tired, anticipatory, listening. Susan, relaxed, interested, stressed, can't get audio to work. Dang. Vicky, tired, grateful, and happy. Thank you so much. Great, everybody. So the other thing I'm going to sometimes ask you to do is to unmute yourself and say something, and then mute yourself back again. So I'd like to try this right now. We're going to all talk on top of each other, and that's perfectly good. I want you, everybody, to unmute yourself and say hello from wherever you are.
Hello from Eastern Sierra.
Northeastern Ohio.
Hello
from Florida.
Fantastic. Well
Hi,
done.
I'm here from New Mexico.
Great. Now mute yourself again.
Hi from Nebraska.
Thank you, Nebraska. Great job. Look at you guys. You are tech geniuses. That was perfect. Okay, so what to expect in these, well, really 30 days. We're going, So let me back up and follow my notes instead of randomly talking. Okay, so each day on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in the month of May, you're going to meet a woman who has experienced living part-time or full-time on the road. They're each going to share about a topic that they have expertise in and passion in, and you'll have time to ask them questions. And that will be what we do for the first hour of our 90 minutes. And the recordings of that will be on my YouTube channel, and we will be sending you out an email a few hours after we're done today, giving you the link so you don't have to like remember it or write it down or anything like that. Now, so that's the first hour. The next 30 minutes, because each session is 90 minutes long, I will be facilitating, and you'll be getting to know each other. I'll be taking you on a journey to create a treasure map over the month of May, and you'll get your first taste of that session today. And so that part will also be recorded, but I'm not going to put it on YouTube because it's much more personal. And so that will be, the recording of that will be available if you've joined the inner circle, but I'm just not going to put it out for public consumption. Okay, so every day in the WOW, the Wisdom on Wheels, there's going to be a prize for each woman who joined the Facebook group and responded to some action step that I give you. And so today, there is a prize for everybody who engaged in one of my posts before we started today. Now, I have this list of who you are, but I know it's wrong. The reason it's wrong is because there was a lot of activities in the Facebook group after I made this list, but I'm going to read it. And if you, and we'll be checking again, but if you know that you commented on something and your name's not on here, just pop it in the chat. So these are the winners that I know of. Pamela Milky Wondro, I'm sure I massacred that. Linda Gardner, Lynette Boyette, Joy Joyner, you guys have some great names. Debbie Branson, Karen Buchanan Cation, Mary Anderson, Rita Smoot, Shelby Lynn, Michelle Stanley, Heidi Fogel. So just put I did too in the chat if you know that you also made some, commented on some of my posts. But the thing is, now you know, oh, every day there's going to be some action step and it's going to be related to the Facebook group. So sorry if you're not into doing Facebook. I totally get it. But, that's the way we've got it set up to do it. Claudia said she thinks she did. She asked a question. Okay, so we'll track that. So your prize, the prize for the today is going to be a Winner Circle WOW celebration in June. So we'll have a small group, private group just for the people who were participating and they won one day. And so you'll get that as a bonus. And we'll be sending out emails for these things later, not right now because we don't want to bombard you with a million things, but that's what will be coming up. Okay. And then our next session in the WOW is next Tuesday. So I'll let you know later in today's call about what the action step is today to win a prize on Tuesday. Okay, now let's talk about today's speaker. So you guys, I have some good news and I have some bad news. So I'm going to start with the bad news. Janet Privet, who was lined up to be our very first speaker, could not be here today. She, today is her mother's 98th birthday. We had multiple conversations. She thought she could do it. We figured out the time so that she could do it. But as she got closer to her mother's birthday, family members were coming into town, and it just proved way too problematic for her to be celebrating her mother's 98th birthday and be here with you. So I'm really sad about that. And here's what I want you to say. So there's also a complication for Janet, and you may know this. She's leading a caravan around the country, like for 3 months, starting next week. I think it's starting next Wednesday, I believe. So I think I might be able to get her in an interview sometime, in the next month. and either host it live for you or at least give you a recording. If you want that, please just let me know in the chat so that I have some, clout to say, Janet, they really want to hear from you. Let's figure out a way to do this. And the thing is, this is part of van life. Like, it's just not quite as predictable as when you're totally living in sticks and bricks. Okay, so we've got some comments coming in there. Great. Thank you for that. And so the great news is you get to meet Joni Zander. So Joni and I met at a women's meetup on Roosevelt Lake in Arizona just a couple of weeks ago. And because, we were both at that meetup. So let me find, Joni, can you raise your hand for me so you pop up to the front? Thank you so much. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to read you some of Joni's very impressive bio. So Joni Zander has been living full-time in her custom-built Sprinter van for almost 8 years. If you haven't, you can see a van tour interview that I did of Joni on my YouTube channel. And we'll post links, that and Joni's links on the Facebook group so you don't have to write things down and remember all this stuff. Joni is the creator and the road guide at the YouTube channel, The Caravan, which is a gorgeous channel, and the Facebook group, Gal Adventures, which is like a whole education in van life. She helps women stop dreaming and start driving. She also enjoys organizing caravans for solo women nomads and is the co-creator of the group Nomadic Lesbians. You may recognize Joni from the Homes on Wheels Alliance, HOWA's women's virtual caravan, which she started in 2020, beginning of COVID, and hosted through May of 2021, a massive endeavor, right? And so, like I said, instead of you trying to remember all this stuff and copy all of this down, you will get all of these links. Okay, is there anybody else who can only see me? Okay, so here's what you can do. Over in the upper right-hand corner, there is the word view, and you can click on speaker view or gallery view or multi-speaker. Mine has like 4 different choices. So you get to pick whether you see everybody or whether you just see me or whether you just see me and Joni. Does that, Jean, did you get that? So that's one of the things of Zoom. So it's in the upper right-hand corner. It's the word view. If you click on that word, you will get some choices and you can test out the different ways to view the whole thing. Okay, Joni, thank you so much for being here. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So you want me to just start with our agenda here? And
yep, Joni's
okay.
going to start off with stuff, and today is
All
going
right.
to be a massive overview.
It is.
And we're going
So
to do it.
yeah, so what we're trying to do today is to give you an overview of the entire Wisdom on Wheels, in addition to information that you need to get started. So just in addition to what Natalie shared about me, I travel in a 2025 Freightliner Sprinter that I bought as an empty cargo van, designed and hired a tiny house builder to build out for me. And I am on the road because I could. I've moved my whole life. I had a cousin who came to a family reunion with a built out Sprinter and I totally fell in love. And 5 years of research and I finally got on the road. So so for those of you who haven't quite gotten started yet, think a little bit about what your why is for wanting to be a nomad, wanting to do this crazy life, because it is not your normal, it's not what everyone expects you to do. So some common reasons why are just the freedom and adventure. Or maybe things are changing in your life, like maybe your kids are just grown and gone, or you just retired, or maybe you're experiencing a divorce. Maybe you're going to stay in your house and have weekend adventures. Maybe you're going to keep your house and have seasonal migration adventures. So we call that snowbirding. Generally, women in the northern parts of the country will migrate down to the southern, warmer parts of the country in the winter. Maybe you're a skier and you want to do that instead. So it doesn't have to be migrating to warmer areas. Possibly you're one of the many, many, many women who are facing imminent homelessness. Maybe you just can't quite afford to retire, but you don't want a regular job. Or maybe you're one of the many nomads who want to do this for a more finite period of time to figure out where you want to move to. So maybe you're tired of where you are and you just want to find somewhere else. And that's actually why my cousin did van life, and she did it for 1 year. She found her place and she settled down. So for me, I have been on the road for almost 8 years. It'll be 8 years at the end of this month. I thought I was going to do this for 5 or 6 years. And the first 2 years, that's what I would tell people. And then I stopped telling them that. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I don't see an end to this. I will do this as long as I can because I love it.
So great. Joni, let's stop for a
Yep.
second and ask people, put in the chat, what's one of your main reasons? You may have multiple reasons, but what's, if you're wanting to, do this lifestyle, there may be people on this call who are just curious, but if you're wanting to, put in the chat, what's one of your main reasons for wanting to do this?
So while those are coming in, I thought that I was going to travel around the country, see all the national parks in 1 year, and then ship my van overseas and explore overseas. My first year, I got as far from Corvallis, Oregon, which I saw Anna or Anna, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, that you're in Corvallis. I got as far as from Corvallis to Durango, Colorado. That's as far east as I got, because I met so many people on the road and I realized that I actually preferred hanging out with other nomads and enjoying the people over places. So
I love that. Okay, so let's see what they shared. Sue says, I'm never bored. Deborah, exploring. Cynthia, travel, adventure, see the world, meet new friends. Claudia, peace and adventure. Erin, exploring the US. Sue, retired, restless. Mary, I want to see all the national parks and live minimally. Peggy, travel and meet people. Mary Beth, adventure. Karen, my hubby built a decked out Sprinter for us to travel, but I want to do some solo, some me time. So building a very no build type van. Pat says, to adventure, keeping home. Linda, I'm widowed and just want to go exploring, visiting friends and family across the country. Nancy says, I want to explore the country and meet new friends. Brenda, retired and was hoping to force myself to slow down and not be so responsible. Dion, traveling the US in comfort. Jean, freedom. Melody, travel and meet people. Time to myself, adventure. And for me, it's a combination of adventure and also economics. I don't want to have to support this home. And so I want to be able to earn less and do more.
Absolutely. And it looks like you froze
Thanks,
for a second.
What's next?
All right. So, so to start with, so generally when you're thinking about starting, you're thinking about what rig am I going to be in? And we do have a number of speakers who are going to be talking about rigs, but we want you to think about, what do you already have? So are you able to travel either tent camping or figuring out a way to make a bed in your car or SUV or minivan? And what kind of equipment do you already have? So you probably have everything that you need for your kitchen, unless maybe it's a portable stove. You probably already have so many more dishes than you could possibly need, that sort of thing. And we'll be talking about downsizing here in a minute. And then what do you need to be a nomad that you don't already have. So one way to assess the space that you need, and I find this to be a really great exercise, is to really take time to assess the current space that you're actually using. So whatever space you're using, or whatever your housing situation is, it's bigger than whatever you'd be traveling in. Even if you're traveling in the biggest motorhome, your space is probably bigger than what you have right now. And so for a lot of women, it's hard to even conceptualize, how can I possibly live in a space that small? And so what I challenge you to do is take 1 week of your just normal daily life and write down what spaces you use. Do you use more than one chair? Do you use, how much of your bed are you using? How much of everything in your house are you using? Do you actually use your table? Do you like to lay out on your couch, or do you like to hang out on your bed and do stuff on your computer on your bed? So just really think about what spaces you're using. I think you'll be surprised at how little of the space you have you're using. Now, if it turns out that you're using a lot of your space, then I would challenge you to the next week to think about how little of the things that you're using could you get away, could you be comfortable using? Okay.
I think that's
Oh,
such a great activity. Can I add a couple things here, Joan?
absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So one thing that I did is I got rid of all the things in my kitchen except for one plate, two bowls, one fork, one spoon. I like pared down. And then I started washing my dishes with a spray bottle. I tried to mimic what I would be doing when I was out on the road. And it was not hard. It didn't feel like any kind of like I was limiting myself. But the other thing that I did when I got my Honda Element is I got butcher paper and I taped it all together. And so I had a floor plan. I knew exactly how much space because I had cut it out on the floor. And when I brought it in the house, and then I put my fridge, which was one of the first things I bought, which is not necessary, but it is one of the first things I bought. I set the fridge there. It was daunting. Like I could take two, 3 steps, and that was the whole space. So that was a sobering exercise.
Yeah, and I did something really similar. I took painter's tape in my house, and I started with my bed because I knew I was going to have an entire full queen size bed in my van. And because I was married to a woman who was 6 feet tall when I was designing my van, so I knew that I needed the full queen size bed. And then I just taped off and then took furniture, combination of furniture and boxes and things, to fill out the space. That was when I was trying to figure out what size van I wanted to order. So I knew I wanted a Sprinter. You might not know what size, what kind of van you want, or what kind of rig you want, but I knew I wanted a Sprinter, and they come in 2 lengths, well, 3 lengths actually. And so so I just used those sizes in my house to see if I could do it and to see if it was comfortable. And then in my kitchen, and I think this is in your video, Natalie, I think I talked about this, where I actually took the different sizes of fridge. You don't know when you're in a house how small of a fridge you can get away with, and and these fridges are not that big. And so I took the size that I thought I wanted, and I taped that in my fridge and then moved all my food into those spaces.
That's
Because
smart.
yeah, because I mean, it's just hard to know how big everything is, or how much you can get away with. So those are just a little bit of tips and tricks to figure out what size, like how can you do this with something smaller than what you're in now. So our next thing is we're going to talk about letting go. So this is a really common area that most women struggle with, and that is downsizing before you get on the road. Now, if you are keeping your whole house, this is probably not a big issue for you. But if you are actually selling your house or renting it out, then this is something that you really need to think about. Now, I did make a full video on this, and I have the link for Natalie down below in this document, so that she can share that with you. So I used the book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. I mean, this has been a while, but I think it's a really good book for a lot of people, and you can probably get it at your library. And you assess each item. And recently I saw a twist to the Kondo method. If you have this item and it got poop on it, would you clean the poop off?
So you could keep it.
Yeah, yeah. So, but another question to ask yourself is, would you buy it again, right? So I suggest, so, you know, your stuff is in categories. So common categories are clothing, personal items, kitchen, furniture, household items like art, books, music, tools, cleaning, and craft and hobby supplies and equipment, and sentimental items. That's the hard part. So do your easiest categories first. If you can get some success with an easy category, I suggest the bathroom is a pretty easy category to start with. The linen closet can be a really easy category to start with. You're not going to need so much. Clothing depends on you, whether clothing is easy for you or not. For van life, you don't need very many clothes at all. I started out with my closet about this big, and it's now about this big. A lot of women thrift on the road. So if you're someone who likes a lot of variety, now I don't. I mean, I wear, I think I have 3 or 4 colors of this shirt. That's all I wear. But if you want more variety, then a lot of women will just thrift what they want. And then when they're tired of it, they'll donate it and thrift again. So that's one way and free piles are ubiquitous when you're on the road. If you're going to events, almost every event's going to have a free pile with lots
Joni,
of
let's
great
stop
stuff.
for a second
Yeah.
and get comments. So first thing I'd like to know is, are you planning on keeping or getting rid of your house?
Mhm.
So let's hear from everybody. And some of you have already done it. Like there are women here who are full-time on the road like you and like Sue and like Patty. And so let us know in the chat. You've got a house also, or you're just going to have a vehicle. Oh, that's really cool. Patty lived in her driveway for 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got a variety. We've really got
It's pretty,
a variety of
pretty
people
even.
Here. Yeah. And so let's back up one step. You were talking about vehicles. And so let's hear from people, like if you already have your vehicle, like already have it, you could put that in the chat. And what is it? And if you don't have it yet, what are you thinking of? You know, do you not know yet? Are you still in the market? Are you, you know, what are your thoughts on vehicle? So Anna's looking at a Subaru Outback. Jean is going to do a no-build minivan.
ProMaster City.
Brenda already has a ProMaster City. Sue just got the Dodge Caravan. Patty has a Winnebago Travado. Oh, I see. Alice has a, do you mean a C, RVC? Is that what they call it?
CRV, a Honda CRV.
Oh, she says a C, but won't a van. I'm not sure.
Yes.
What.
Oh, a C, a Class C.
Yes, it's a Class C, and
Yeah.
but I want a van, and I was trying to fix
You
it.
want a van. Got it. Got it. Yeah, it's very hard to type in these things.
I was trying to correct it.
Yeah, Mary's can be a couple years and find a tiny house. Debbie and Heidi aren't sure. Sandra has one. She's upgraded. Susan Dodge Caravan. Mary Ford Transit, high top. Danny, a VW Atlas SUV. And Claudia has a Honda Pilot she camps in. She's looking for a van. Dion may rent vehicles forever. You're going to hear from her later. Nancy is starting with her Honda CRV, super smart. Cynthia has a CRV to try out. She wants a Dodge Caravan because of all those qualities. Jean has a minivan. Karen has a 1994 Chevy G20. She's doing all the hippie decor. I want to see that. Barb has a Sienna. Karen is car camping in a Sorrento. She wants to get a larger Transit. Deb has, see, there's so many options. Deb has a Chevy 1500. Mary Beth's looking for a vehicle. She changed her mind from a Transit to a minivan. You might go back. Hopped back and forth. Deborah's looking to move up into a van. She's in a Hyundai Sonata. Sue wanted a van, but she ended up in a Class C. And Anna had to get an Outback. She was told it was required for citizenship in Corvallis. Joni.
Either that or a Prius.
Melody has a Kia Sedona minivan, but she wants a newer Pacifica Grand Caravan. Anna started with a van. Now she has a 24-foot motorhome. Look at this. It's so wonderful because there's just like, you can have what you want, and it ranges from, you know, like a Prius up to a giant motorhome, and it's all
absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and it can sometimes be quite a bit cheaper to get like a Class C motorhome than a built-out cargo van.
So Karen can offer some advice because her company has many vans. That's cool.
Ooh.
Jean is sitting in her van now. Mary was in a Toyota Highlander, and she got a small fiberglass camper. Okay. All right. I can't keep up with it, but that's good enough for now. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. So for those of you who are downsizing, some of the most common problem categories, the things that you're gonna really have trouble with. So downsizing is mostly mindset, right? You gotta figure out how you can let go. One of the hardest categories is sentimental. So that includes your kids' things that are memory items like souvenirs. Like I like to use the concert t-shirt category for that, and heirlooms. And so what I did was, for my kids' things, the things that I wanted a memory of, I took a picture of. So digitize as much as you can. For the things that I thought my kids might want, I gave them an option to take it. If they didn't want it, they didn't want it, and I had no obligation to keep it. With family heirlooms, I put it back on the family. Everybody who's, you know, it's like, here are the family heirlooms that I'd been storing. It's your turn. And if they didn't want it, they didn't want it. Now, one thing that I've heard a lot from a lot of women is, you're the last one in your family and you have all these family heirlooms. And if you don't want to store them, and I actually recommend not storing, but think about the person whose item it was, and really ask yourself, say it's your grandma, would your grandma really want you to forego your dream for keeping her stuff? And I really don't think she would. And if she would, maybe it's still not worth it. So I had the benefit of my former in-laws were full-time for 19 years, and they stored a bunch of stuff. They got rid of a ton of stuff, but they stored a bunch of stuff. And at the end of 19 years, that stuff didn't really fit into their new house. And, you know, a lot of it just wasn't, you know, things deteriorate as they're stored. And it was a lot of expense. And I was determined to not do that. So another problem category is stuff that's expensive, stuff that you kind of invested in, stuff that you splurged on. Maybe you bought something that like a more expensive version of something. And
really fine furniture or art or something?
Sure, anything that's more expensive. And just know that is a sunk cost. That money is already gone. And you can try and sell that item, a lot of consignment stores, that sort of thing. But think about how much keeping that item is costing you. Is it costing you your dream to go on the road? If you're keeping it in your rig, is it costing you the ability to live freely in your rig? We talk a lot about the van life shuffle. If you have too much stuff in your van, you might be storing it on your bed during the day and then you're storing it in your cab at night, and it gets really tiring to move it back and forth and back and forth. So think about how much it really costs you. Everything that you own has mental energy as well. You know, you have to think about your thing that you own. So, and the other categories that you might need it. And so how much would it actually cost for you to replace it versus storing it or keeping it? Now, this is just a really quick overview of downsizing, and I do have a 40-minute video on it. So
Yeah, and before we move on, let's just ask folks, is it just share in the chat, is it hard to downsize or is it easy to downsize for you? And if it's hard, you might share like what's hard about it. And I'll just share, for me, it's easy to the thought of downsizing is easy. I don't really value any of my possessions. It's easy. However, the practical, what am I, how many trips to the thrift store? What can I sell? In practicality, it's just the energy and the action involved. And let's see what folks are saying. Patty says people can donate heirlooms. It's great. Cynthia has a recommendation, the Clutter Fairy, every Tuesday at noon. That's great. Erin said, I felt so much lighter after I sold everything. I was ruthless. I love that. Claudia says it's hard and she's not sure why. Sue said having an estate sale made it easier. I want to have an estate sale. That's what I want to do.
great idea.
I want a whole bunch of people to come in and buy it all. Debbie says it's easy. Debbie and Heidi. Cynthia says very hard, sentimentally attached to things, have a trunk of grandma's checkbooks, so much more. Joan says it's hard. I might need this. So-and-so gave me this. This was my kids or my mom. I get that. Sandra's, it's a good exercise. Deborah, I'm finding it hard to let go of the jewelry. Barb, it should be easy for things. Other things I think I'll need on the road I want to have with me. Patty says it was easy to downsize, but I had 5 years to do it. Yeah. Anna says, easy, come and take the rest of my stuff, please. And let's have a joint sale.
Yeah.
Sharon says, I'm mortified to sell my home. I have had the security of it for 40 years. I really need to sell. I don't want to be there. I get that, opposites within you. Peggy says, some things are easy to get rid of. Others are more challenging. Mary Beth says, already have downsized. Goodwill was very happy. Debbie and Heidi, a lot of reward, donated a lot. Karen says, I just have to remind myself that I can buy yarn anywhere.
That's right.
He says, having an estate sale this month. Peggy, great. Jean says, I
awesome.
downsized years ago, courtesy of the ex, never collected anything again, so it was done for me. I am proud of you.
Yeah.
Barb says, I'm going to invest in a Yakima so I can have extras. Erin says, think about the experience. You can trade for the thing. Love that. Mary, why I'm going to downsize to a tiny house for the stuff I can't get rid of. Nancy says, I'm working on downsizing now. It's getting easier the more I get rid of. Oh, I like to hear that. Sue says, I bought new art supplies that I sold 3 years ago. She just bought them last week. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Some of that stuff, one thing, so the estate sale, I would definitely recommend an estate sale over a garage sale. The garage sales are so much energy and you get almost nothing for your stuff. It's really disheartening to have a garage sale, unless you're somebody who loves garage sales. But I would recommend the estate sale over a garage sale.
What's the difference? What's the difference, Joni?
An estate sale, you have a professional come in and they market it and they price everything. And then it's done. With the garage sale, you have people coming and they're like, will you take 25 cents for this? I mean, it's annoying.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
it's perceived greater value with
It
this,
is,
the
it
word
is,
estate. Yes.
it is, yes. And you're not the one doing it. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you actually, I do believe you get more from an estate sale, even though you have to pay the estate sale
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
All right. So if you want to move on to vehicles and talk about the speakers.
Sure, sure. So hold on, let me back up. So vehicles. So there's two speakers that are going to be talking about, well, a variety of things. We're a couple people. Ellen is going to be talking about power for your vehicle, and Sylviane is going to be talking about less is more and getting and staying organized in your vehicle. And then, let me get my notes here. Well, anyway, I know that Dion is going to be talking about glamping, how to camp in style by renting a minivan. Some of you might really be interested in this. And Renee is going to be just talking in general about how to find the right vehicle for you, and that it depends on your plans and interests and how to fine tune that. And Renee is also an expert in tiny homes. She is the founder of the Tiny Fest every year in San Diego. She lives in a bus and she rents as an Airbnb a tiny home. And she has her, feet in both worlds. So I think that's going to be very interesting. And
Very cool.
I just want to mention that I didn't know how valuable experience was in vehicles was going to be before I started, because I had a Pontiac Vibe that I'd taken camping a few times, and I loved that I could just sleep stretch full out on the diagonal, but still sleep stretch full out in the Vibe. So I knew that I wanted a vehicle I could sleep in. So when I saw the Honda Element, I thought, this is plenty big, because it was so much bigger than the Vibe. This will be perfect for me. And then I realized after a few months of living in it in different settings that it was actually too cramping. It was too complicated to try to move around and store everything. So now I'm looking at a Ram ProMaster, but that was after taking my brother's Ford Transit for a weekend trip to San Diego and back. And so I got the experience of driving a bigger vehicle and living in bigger. So that has been so valuable. If I was to start over, I might try to rent a few things so that I could have that experience before I actually bought it. But that's not really how I am. I'm just a sort of jump in and do it sort of person, so I probably wouldn't have rented them.
Yeah, I'm a over research and then make a decision what will work for me. I'm pretty good at that. I'm one of the few people. I've been in this van for 8 years and have made almost no changes.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So tell us in the chat, are you a planner or are you a leaper? Do you like to plan, or do you like to leap, or do you like to do maybe a combo?
A combination, yeah. I mean, one of the things that was just so helpful to me was going to van meetup events and actually going inside other vans, because it's so much easier to visualize what's going to work for you.
Yeah. Sue was a leaper after watching YouTube for 3 years. So we got leap, combo, plan, leap, combo, a little of both, mostly a leaper, planner, leap, then research and plan and leap again. Mary, actually, that's me. Danny is a combo, Mary's a combo, Karen's a leaper. It's okay. You just got to work with what you got here, and
yeah,
that's great. Okay.
So there's levels of getting your rig and getting on the road, and your basic stuff is you need a place to sleep, you need a place to prepare food of some sort, you need fresh water to drink, you need storage for the essentials, and you may or may not actually need power. I know a lot of people who went for quite a while without power, with just charging stuff as they're driving or going to Starbucks or wherever, the library, places like that, and charging there.
Because you can, if all you have is your phone, maybe that's all you have, you can charge that in your car while you're driving.
Exactly. Yes. So we do have some upcoming sessions on related topics. I think you already mentioned that how to power up your vehicle and what you need is coming up on May 13th. May 14th, less is more, getting and staying organized.
Yeah.
So the simplest way to go, as we're just mentioning, is a cigarette lighter adapter for phone charging while driving. Or, you know, your car might be new enough that you have USB outlets in your cab area. You could also get just a tiny power bank for charging when you're not driving. Those are easy to come by. And if you're able to, you can eat food that doesn't need to be cooked at all. So dried or canned food, fresh fruits and veggies, packaged meals. You could even, you could even pretend that you're backpacking. And then for sleeping, you can also just pretend that you're camping in your vehicle. A foam pad, a blow-up mattress, a sleeping bag, or just some sheets and blankets. Just keep it simple at first. And just having your clothing and essentials in boxes or plastic bins or even duffel bag, suitcase, that sort of thing. I've seen it all. And you just have to figure out what works for you. There is every way to to be a nomad. There are so many different ways to be a nomad, and there's no one right way. It's whatever works for you, and changing it up is really common. You don't have to figure out everything before you start. I do a lot of rig tours on my channel, and I love showing rigs of women who haven't finished yet. They're on the road, they're doing the thing, but they haven't completely dialed everything in. And I just love showing that, because I love showing women that you don't have to have it all perfect before you start.
Because Joni, I think you are the exception to have, spent 5 years figuring out what you wanted. You knew from the start what vehicle you wanted. You figured out the size, you figured out all the stuff, and then you hired a builder. You got it all built out, and you've been happy with that for 8 years. You
Yeah.
didn't change a thing. Most of the people that I have met who have lived on the road for more than 5 years, they've lived in more than one vehicle.
Multiples.
They
Yes.
started out with like a econo van or something,
Mhm.
old conversion van, and then they went to like a Volkswagen, Euro van or something, and then they moved up to a Ford Transit, and and so it's the thing that I didn't think of is that it's okay to just start and be fine with, oh, I'm going to change this in a year or 2 or 3.
Yep. Absolutely. So the types of vehicles that work for just the simple, let's get started, where you can just figure out, put a bed in the back kind of thing, some sort of a hatchback. A Prius is actually a really, really great vehicle to start with, because especially if you're in areas where you need climate control. Because you can have the Prius on without running the engine all the time. SUVs are great. Minivans are the ultimate stealth vehicle. Now, stealth is pretty overrated as far as being on the road, because there's so many of us, law enforcement and other people pretty much can tell if someone's living in something. But a minivan is so ubiquitous. It is so easy to park anywhere, disguise that you're in there, black out the windows, super great. A passenger van, and then a cargo or a commercial van. And I really feel like that's kind of not really a starter vehicle, the cargo or commercial van. But when I was in Alaska, I met a couple from Germany. They flew into Anchorage. They rented a cargo van from U-Haul. They bought a blow-up mattress, and the REI in Anchorage rents camping equipment. So they rent coolers, they rent, you know, sleeping pads, all that stuff, camping, cooking equipment, all of that. So there's more options than you can possibly imagine. And I love that they were just, that was, you know, I think they were there for 2 or 3 weeks in Alaska from Germany for $19 a day. You know, it's pretty great.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Because
it was
The
great.
same kind of cargo vans that a lot of people are buying, the ones
It was a
that,
ProMaster.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
That's
it was great. Yeah, it doesn't have all the fancy stuff. It didn't have any bug screens, that sort of thing, but it was great. Um, all right, so that's the basic. Then the mid-range. So that's a step up. Maybe you get a power station or two, like Natalie has, a small fridge, maybe a portable solar panel. There are some really great foldable solar panels like what Natalie has. Um, a cot or a bed frame. I've also seen women with a no build. I have one minivan tour on my channel where she just took a piece of plywood and cut it the right size, and it's just on plastic bins that she uses for storage. So she actually originally built out a bed, and then she realized that didn't really work for her. She went to just a simple piece of plywood over bins, because the bins, you only pull out one bin at a time, so your bed frame is still supported the whole time.
so
Yeah, it was really smart. She'd been living in that for 5 years. It was great. A gas stove or butane stove with cooking utensils, storage cabinet or some sort of a structure for storage. Those are kind of the mid-range. The vehicles that work for mid-range are the same, you know, the SUVs, the hatchbacks, the minivans, conversion vans, or you could move up to pulling a trailer. And trailers come in all kinds of different sizes and shapes. And trailers, they're also called bumper pulls. They can be really, really a cheap way to go if your vehicle is sized to pull it. You need to absolutely make sure that your towing capacity is more than what your trailer weighs. Okay, did you want to take a break or go on to the advanced?
let's go into the advanced and then
Okay.
we'll check with people on what they want there.
All right. So advanced is generally a little more built in. You might have a more robust power system, especially if you're full time. You might have your solar mounted on the roof. You might have a lot of things mounted. This winter I upgraded to mounting my Starlink and an antenna for my SIM card up on my roof so that I don't have to set it up every time. It's been totally game changing. Having a big battery system can be really nice, especially if you're full time. I ended up putting in more than I needed. I have 500 amp hours of lithium. I could probably easily go down to 400. A lighting system, funny. Okay, so I have built-in lights in my van, and I do use them. But what I use the most are little fairy lights that are battery operated, and I use just rechargeable AA batteries in them. So that's what I use the most, but some sort of lighting. And with those systems, with the solar mounting, and if you have the DC to DC charging, then you're charging when you're driving, you're charging when you're sitting in the sun. Really great. Some sort of ventilation system. So a lot of us use like a max air fan in the ceiling. Some people don't like to put any holes in the ceiling. Anytime you put a hole in the ceiling, you've got to keep up with your die-core to keep it from leaking. So there are some people who put the ventilation on the sides. Some sort of heating system, and I actually have a video on all kinds of ways to stay warm. I'm sure there's lots on YouTube on ways to stay warm. My heater, I have a diesel heater that's built in that's been broken for like 2.5 years.
Huh.
almost 3 years, I think. And I haven't needed it, so I haven't fixed it. I mean, I tried to fix it, but they couldn't fix it, so I have to replace it. And then, are you going to do a no build? Are you going to DIY it? Are you going to do a custom build? Or are you going to buy something that's already built? Right now, I'm seeing, I'm in a lot of different for sale groups, and the one that I like the best is Van Life Marketplace. And I'm seeing a lot of people selling their DIY or custom built vans. So if you're not such a custom princess like I am, then you can probably get away with buying something that somebody else built.
And is that a Facebook group, Joni?
It is. Uh-huh.
I'll make sure to link that.
Yeah. And
So
I'm in a bunch of them, but that one seems to be the
Yeah.
one that's the highest quality.
Should we ask people some questions now?
Sure.
So let's go with two questions. The first one is, are you more inclined to do the simple, the mid, or the advanced? And the simple is where you just bring the bare minimum. You don't necessarily have refrigeration or a power station or any of that kind of stuff. And generally it's a smaller vehicle, but it could be anything. Mid is you got a small power station, you have maybe a small fridge, maybe a portable solar, all of that. And then advanced is, well, like Joni's living in, you've got a power system, you might have mounted solar, all that kind of thing. And so we've got advanced, we've got mid, totally advanced. Patty is simple, simple at first. I'm working on mid, leaning toward mid, starting mid, and now I'm advanced. I love my simple system. Okay, these are great. I hope advanced. Claudia says, I'm old.
I know a woman, she's in her late 70s, who loves living in her minivan. She has no refrigeration. She's in one of the minivans that has the stow and go seats that she's taken out, and she's created a cooler spot for her cool storage food in one of those cubbies in the back of her van, and she loves it, and she's been living it for years.
Yeah. Well, Jan, who I interviewed a couple months back, has a Ford Transit Connect, which is not much bigger than the Honda Element, but it is bigger.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have any refrigeration. She buys food at farmers markets, but also just like canned and ready to eat things. She has a bike rack on the back. She carries a mountain bike. She has a foldable kayak. So for her, adventure and meeting people and helping out other people along the road is much more important than having a whole bunch of power stations and and all that kind of thing. And she's perfectly happy. She's been on it for several years. It works perfectly for her.
Yeah. So a lot of you probably know of Sue Ann Carlson. She's the one who co-founded Homes on Wheels Alliance with Bob Wells. She lived in her Prius for at least 5 years. And she is not a small woman. She's a very large woman. And she ended up getting a cargo van almost under duress because she was the executive director of Homes on Wheels Alliance. She actually preferred her Prius. So bigger isn't always the right solution.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, and we didn't, so the types of vehicles for advanced are definitely the cargo or commercial vans, RVs of any kind. So there's Class Bs that are a built-out van. There's Class Cs that are bigger with a cab over. There's Super Cs that are on a really heavy-duty engine with those are expensive and big and beautiful. There's Class A's that are like a bus kind of thing. With a schoolie is kind of a homemade version of that. There's trailers, there's fifth wheels that are actually easier to tow than a trailer. So lots of options for the advanced.
Yeah, that's so great. Okay, and then the next question that Joni covered is this. Do you want to be DIY? Like, build the whole thing yourself? Do you want to have a no build where you're just, I don't know, like putting in a mattress and bins and stuff? Do you want to have a custom build where you hire somebody to build it, or do you want to buy it built? And some of you already have your vehicle, but share DIY, no build, custom build, buy it built. Which is your preference? And honestly, my preference changes pretty much daily. Every time I'm on those sites, for one moment, I'm thinking no build. I want to do it all myself. And then when I look at some of these that people have, what I like the most actually right now, you guys, is the ones that are half built. They've put in the floor, they've put in some sound barrier, they've put in some insulation, and I'm thinking, great, I'll take it from there.
Yeah. One of the benefits of no build, DIY, and custom are, if you're really involved in your custom build, is that you know what's going on with your rig. And so if you ever have any problems, it's much easier to track those down. If you're in something that someone else built, especially if it's an RV, from an RV manufacturer, you're going to need to get really good at tracking down problems, because they do tend to have a lot of problems.
Yeah. So it's so interesting. So we have DIY, no build, custom built or built, starting with a no build, DIY with my adult children. Very nice. Starting DIY, eventually we'll build out, advanced, no build because I'm constantly changing things around. Here, Eugene. Cynthia says if I could afford one that is all set, that would be great. So economics is definitely part of the decision. Totally for me. Partial build, DIY or no build. Budget requires no build. Got it. No build, DIY. Want something already done, but I have a DIY budget. I hear you, Karen. Karen says DIY with help from hubby. Says Joni, you would love the van he built. Crazy advanced, too much for me. So my old van is going to be DIY with his help on electrical. Smart.
Nice.
DIY, no build. Wow, handyman did a CRV build, Aaron says.
Oh, cool.
And Patty's is a company built by Winnebago. Have some build. Yeah, it's so wonderful. No build. I just love how we have this audience here, this group of people. We have so many different options. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and which way you start can depend on your finances, your experience, your comfort, your needs, your skill level, your risk level, why you want to get on the road, lots of different reasons, lots of different dependencies on which way you go. Yeah. And maybe you just need to go. And so you need to find something that's already done and you just go too. So,
yeah. So Joni, I'm seeing that we're at 3 o'clock. So yeah, so we don't necessarily want to go deep into every other category, especially because, like, for example, you're leading a session on boondocking. Patty's leading a session. Patty, who's here, is leading a session on where to overnight and how to find spots.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we don't have to go into that.
Yeah, and then you're doing the staying healthy.
Staying healthy. I'm doing a session on that.
How to stay clean. Susan's doing a session on that.
Yep. And Debbie Jean is going to be talking about building community through Meetup, staying connected there. How about you just talk a little bit about how to keep your vehicle healthy? Because I think you're really good at that. And that's important.
I'm moderately good at that. I'm good at finding good mechanics. So really the most important thing is your regular maintenance. Make sure that you're keeping up with your maintenance, whatever your oil change schedule is on your rig. Mine happens to be every 20,000 miles because I'm on a diesel engine. But I do it every 10,000 because it is my full-time home. I just don't want to keep it going that long. So I'm not good at checking my oil and other fluid levels. Maybe that's because I do my maintenance, twice as quickly as I need to. Checking your tire pressure, I highly recommend that you carry an air compressor that's rated for the PSI of your tires. Because especially if you plan on going off-road at all, I just last week got very stuck. I had to air down my tires because that gives you a lot more traction. And then I had to air them back up because I was in the middle of the desert. So pre-trip checks, or, I do my checkups twice a year because I have an amazing mechanic in Tucson. So he sees my van when I get back to Tucson in the fall, and he sees my van before I leave in the spring. So finding independent, highly rated mechanics who specialize in your vehicle is gold. Especially if you're not super mechanically inclined. I mean, I've done some mechanics on other older vehicles that I've had, but now most of us are driving around hundreds of computers, and they're just so advanced. And so having a mechanic that you can trust is just it's so worth it. And one way to find those is to be in Facebook groups or forums for your specific rig. Pay attention to noises. So know what your rig sounds like when it's healthy, because that's one of the first things you're going to notice if you're paying attention is what's that sound? Why is it doing that? Why is it sounding like that? And also make sure it's not leaking anything. And that actually is kind of easy to do, because if you turn off your vehicle and it makes a bunch of popping sounds, that usually means that something's leaking in your hot engine and it's popping off. So just pay attention to that sort of thing. And every once in a while, whenever you leave a spot, back up and just make sure that you're not dripping any fluids. It's not good for the environment. It's not good for your rig.
That's great. Thank you, Joni.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the other topics that we've got two speakers, I'm one of them, speaking on is how to make money on the road. Those are coming up. And so to wrap up this part of our session, the first part, I'd love it if you would acknowledge Joni in the chat. Give her some specific, positive, uplifting feedback about the strengths that you see in her, or something that you gained from today's session with her. I'm sure that will be very meaningful and helpful for Joni to hear, and just be a really positive way for us to end this part of our session together. It's, it takes a lot of work to plan and prepare and deliver something like this. So, and I want to thank you, Joni, because it's just your years on the road and that have gained you all of this experience, but also just the way your mind works. I think you're really good at, planning and learning things and accumulating knowledge. And I just really appreciate your approach. And so let's see what we've got here. Mia says she makes me excited about starting my journey. Erin's a ton of wisdom that I'm grateful you are willing to share. Sharon says, I want to thank you for encouraging me to get out and go. Joan says, thank you so much for the generosity of sharing you in-depth knowledge and experience, Joni. Karen says, I'm so excited to meet in real life. I love the amount of knowledge. Sue says, I love that she is at 8 years and still loving the nomad lifestyle. I hope to get there. Jean says, thank you for a great start. Dion says, thank you, Joni. You have such a wealth of knowledge. Mary Beth says, good knowledge of van life. Very helpful. Thanks. Claudia says, I subscribed to your YouTube channel and was so impressed. You are very good at this. Sandra says, Joni is awesome and super knowledgeable about nomadic living. Thanks, Joni. Mary says, thank you for sharing your years of experience. Patty says, great. She has so much experience with years on the road. Mary says, thanks for sharing your wisdom. Much appreciated. Deborah says she has a lot of insight. Very helpful. Thank you. Sue, she is so authentic and kind. Love your energy. Hope to meet you. Peggy says, I appreciate Joni sharing her experience. Barb says, thank you so much. I just looked Joni up on Facebook to join her group. So knowledgeable and engaging. Cynthia says, so great to see so many women interested in this, because I am pretty alone in the world wanting to do this. I have one good friend who does. Super appreciate all your wisdom and encouragement.
We're here for you. There's a lot of us out here.
There are.
Yeah.
Mary says, so glad I found this link. Even though I joined late, I own a 22-foot schoolie and would love to know more of the ins and outs of traveling on the road. Great community and info, Joni. Danny says, so grateful for sharing with us. Thank you. Karen says, I love that she was willing to jump in and share all of your knowledge. And Joni agreed to do this just what,
2 days.
2 days ago, because that's
Yes.
how this change happened. And Alice says, it was so great to hear from such a strong, confident woman. Thank you. Patty says, really appreciate Joni's clear presentation and clever insights that we newbies need. Hope to see you on the road. Melody says, thank you, Joni, for sharing your wisdom and sweet spirit. And says, I'm not on Facebook either, so want to connect with others. Brenda, Joni, you are so confident and experienced. Thank you for your help. Anna says, clear, patient delivery of helpful information. Liked the comments about stuff and would like to hear Joni talk more about upkeep and maintenance. I'm missing that packet of info before heading out. Said, just subscribe to your YouTube. Nancy says, thank you both for taking time and energy to share your knowledge. Makes me excited to get out there. And Ann says, thanks, Joni. Great knowledge and experience. Mary says, just subscribe to your YouTube too. And Melody says, thank you too, Natalie. I'm so happy to be in this group. I just became a member and I'm looking forward to getting on the road and meeting you all. And Sue says, yes, thank you, Natalie, for putting all this together. So
Absolutely.
thank you, Joni.
Yes, and thank you, Natalie. I mean, this really is quite the undertaking, and for you to just dive in and do it is great. So good for you. And it just it's different. I mean, there are other people doing this sort of a summit kind of a thing, and it's so different for older women on the road. You can learn a lot from the dude bros, but you know, there's just something different about just being a community of women.
Yeah. I feel, I really, I guess it's the first time that I think my age is an asset.
Yes.
I mean, it's not that it hasn't
Our
been.
age is always
it's-
an asset.
It's a feeling inside here. So today's action step, and I apologize for those of you who don't want to be in the Facebook group. Believe me, I totally get it. Today's action step is going to be under Joni's picture to share a gratitude, a takeaway, and an action step for you, not Joni, but for you personally to take from today's session. And there will be a prize next Tuesday for everybody who does that before the Tuesday session. So what you can look for is a photo of Joni in the Facebook group, and you'll put all of those comments under it. If you put them in random places, we won't be able to find them and keep track of them and everything. So if you put them all into there, we'll keep track of that. And like, I'll have a different prize every day for all the people who did that. And there will be some very special prize at the end for anyone who wins the prize every single day, because there's
Wow.
some women who go to this whole thing, or even if they can't attend live, they participate and do all the things. And so just pop in the chat if you're up for it. If you're up for going for the prizes, just type I'm up for it in the chat, so we just have an idea. And that you're keeping me motivated, because I'm the one who is gonna,
Yeah.
get all this stuff. Oh, good. Thank you. A bunch of people are up for it.
Nice. I just want to share real quick. I met Natalie a couple weeks ago at a butterfly gathering, and I hadn't posted to my YouTube channel in well over a year. If you've been following me for a long time, you know that I had just kind of not posted anything. And with her inspiration and wanting to help her grow her channel, I was like, okay, I'm gonna dive back into this. So having a YouTube channel for 7 years is a long slog. So actually 7 years. Yeah. 7 years.
Having a YouTube channel and posting videos regularly is a much bigger deal than I thought it would be. So
Yeah.
I totally get that. I totally get having ups
Yes.
and downs.
Yes. And for those of you who are just starting out and friends and family are saying, oh, you should start a blog, you should start a whatever, only do that if that is a passion for you, because it is a lot of work, and only do it because you want to do it, because you want to help other women, because you want to do whatever. Have that focus. Don't do it because someone is trying to guilt you into doing it, because it's not going to work.
I don't really want my friends and family watching me on YouTube.
No,
I just want
no.
anonymous people,
Yeah.
but they become
Yeah.
friends. And so,
Exactly.
okay. So, the second session is just going to be 15 minutes long because I want to finish within 90 minutes. So it'll be really short. And so this first one will be on YouTube later today. We'll send out an email so you'll have that. I don't know how, I honestly don't know how long it's going to take because it's going to be a long video to upload and all that jazz. Anyway, we'll send you an email. And also the recording will be in the inner circle for those of you who upgraded to the inner circle, and also the thing that we do next. So speaking of the inner circle, let me just give you a couple of information about that, and then we'll jump into it. So the inner circle is designed, I designed it to be an even more intimate series of sessions with some of our speakers, but also with each other, with a smaller, more intimate group. And also, honestly, to help support me financially so that I can continue to provide a whole bunch of free, information for mature van life women. And so what it includes is lifetime access to all the recordings, even if I remove them from the YouTube channel. It includes a free month in the Wisdom on Wheels Sisterhood, which is a group that I'm going to be starting after this meetup in May. And I'm going to also, it includes, what else? It includes a one-on-one with me. It includes several sessions with some of the speakers to go deeper into their topic. More speakers are coming to me, regularly and saying, oh, I want to offer a bonus session also. So it's $47 for that until next Tuesday. We're going to raise it. It's going to go up to $57. So this is like the best deal for people who want to jump in first. And so I feel like it's a no-brainer if you're sincere about living in the road, part-time or full-time, and you really want to form a community and connection with women who want to do that. And so I'll pop the link to join that in the chat. This is the inner circle. And I know that there are women here who have already joined it. We were talking about that in the beginning. And so, Joni, thank you so much. I'm going to jump into our treasure map session. You're welcome to stay. Don't feel like you have
Absolutely.
to.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So this, let me do this. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to start it again. I think that will be easier for us.